Since 1969, Summit Point Motorsports Park has hosted many different series and events. Coming off its 50th anniversary in 2019, this 1.98-mile circuit has hosted numerous SCCA regional and national events. Celebrities such as Tom Cruise and Paul Newman have also made their way around this track over the years. However, it's also been home to some of the craziest races and finishes in all of iRacing. With its thin racing surface, numerous danger and passing zones, and its long run to the start and finish line, the final round of the season today has the potential to be an all-time classic. We're about to find out who can come away with the victory here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Welcome everyone to today's edition of the GTR Countdown to Green, live from the virtual Summit Point Motorsports Park in Summit Point, West Virginia, for the 9th and final round of Season 4 of the Big C's MX-5 Challenge. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth today is Joe Peak, behind the scenes art director Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Today's pre-race coverage is presented by GTR Simulator. GTR's racing simulators are currently used as training aids for professional race car drivers. You too can learn to ace that braking, sharpen those corners, and shave off those vital seconds. Whether you're a professional driver or a gamer looking for a more immersive way to play, GTR has your back. Get started today at gtrsimulator.com. Now, what's the best way to tackle this 10-turn circuit? Let's take a look at your GSRC lap guide to find out.
Alright, we're in the GSRC MX-5, so let's do a lap around Summit Point. Coming down the front stretch, turn 1 will definitely be the best place to pass on the whole track. It's got the longest straight, so the draft will come into play, and then you hit one of the slowest corners. You really won't find any more ideal conditions anywhere else on the circuit. But if you're under attack and defend on the inside, watch out for the over-under on the exit of the corner. The good news is, turn 3 is the opposite direction, so even if your opponent gets underneath you, since this turn switches them to the outside, they'll probably need to completely clear you to get the pass done. Watch out for the crest on the exit though, since it'll be easy for the car to push out into the gravel. Then there's the scary turn 4, which will need a little lift to keep you on the proper racing line. This leads directly into the braking for 5, which is sometimes jokingly called yard sale corner for how often accidents happen here. But now we start into the technical back half of the course with the carousel. It's going to be pretty much single file through here, but your run off of it can make a big difference in your lap time. If you get it just right, the S's of 8 and 9 are flat out, and you won't need to lift until the final corner. But despite the high speeds you'll reach coming up to 10, this is a surprisingly fast sweeper with very little braking. That makes overtakes pretty uncommon on entry. Because it leads back onto the front stretch, it's much more important to ensure you set yourself up for a good run off the exit. This should keep you safer from attack into the first corner. But if you kept it together, you've now hopefully finished a lap around Summit Point.
That was a look at your GSRC lap guide for the best way around Summit Point Motorsports Park. Now let's bring in my co-broadcaster for today, Joe Peak. Your thoughts on this racetrack today?
Well, my main thought is that this is a track that's going to be very familiar to these MX-5 drivers. This is part of the base content here on iRacing, and it's been part of the base content for a long, long time at this point. So most of these drivers, even if they're new to this, to iRacing, they should be extremely familiar. And not only that, it's not that long of a lap. You can see it's only 10 turns over about 2 miles in length. So this is essentially a club track in most cases, in most senses of the word. So drivers should really take to it pretty easy. If they're not familiar with it, it won't take long to get used to it. Really, the big thing is going to be traffic because it's not that long and because we usually get a lot of drivers in this series, Justin.
Absolutely. Today, already expecting more than 45 competitors on the circuit. The average lap times already reaching 1:22 to 1:23 seconds for a majority of the field. But let's take a look at the championship picture for today, because the picture has just about been locked in for much of the field. Robert Hartley has locked himself up with his 3rd championship in 4 seasons after last week's success at Laguna Seca. It is Torres in 2nd spot with 2 victories on the season. Clifford Evan in 3rd, Brandon Hawken and Arlie Harlow rounding out the top 5 points positions. So Robert Hartley, with a successful campaign once more, even with the drops factored in, has had a stellar campaign in terms of points, Joe, earning points in just about every single round in season number 4.
And anybody who's watched GSRC for a while shouldn't be that surprised. Hartley came into the MX-5 World Tour, which was filled with its own, stacked talent in terms of MX-5 drivers, and he came in swinging. So seeing him be so dominant a force here, I think that should almost be expected. If anything, it's on a lot of the other drivers to really come up and step up to reach his level.
Indeed. Let's take a look at the race details, though, as well, as this is the 9th round of the season. And for those tuning in for the first time, this is a fixed setup series for these drivers. Fuel is limited to 3.3 gallons for about 25 minutes in terms of total length for the stints. We have seen strategy in late rounds, though, however, where drivers are now pinning at the start of the fuel window instead of the end of the window. The top 15 drivers earn points, 20 incident points as well as the limit. Remember, there are 2 drop weeks, so there's the chance the points can still shuffle around a little bit for some of these drivers today. So it should be an interesting one to say the very least here, Joe, especially with the track conditions.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good out there right now. It's only 81 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. In terms of iRacing, that's pretty cool. And it's only going to get colder because, as you can see, as always, we start this thing just at sunset. So drivers should have a pretty easy time getting everything up to speed here and getting used to things. If anything, it's all mostly going to come down to strategy in terms of your fuel stop, trying to use that maybe to your advantage with the traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to that point, let's talk about the qualifying details presented by SHH Shifter. Once again, it is 15 minutes for the drivers to put in qualifying laps. 4 total laps are allowed, and these are lone qualifying attempts for those tuning in for the first time, meaning all of the drivers must get their best times on their own of the racetrack. Right now, the fastest times on the left side of your screen go in the 1:22.3s all the way down to the 1:23s at the end of the top 20 for the 1:23.1s. So a quick amount of pace, to say the very least, within 0.8 of a second for the top 20, Joe.
And interestingly, Robert Hartley right now down in 7th, and he's completed all 4 of his laps so far, so he can't get it up any higher. I'm looking at the likes of Torres, who's starting in 3rd. He's probably one to watch out for. Pajan is known to be very quick, if not, unfortunately, a little bit unlucky. And then, of course, you can't count out the series organizer, Clifford Evan. He sits there in 4th, and looks like he's not intent on coming back out as he's taken 3 laps, and right now is just sitting in pit lane.
Yeah, Pagnon looking to have a stellar campaign, and this is one of the tracks where he could be a contender, especially since the drafting tracks for Pagnon have been some of his best ones throughout the season. You're following along with some of the drivers as they make their way for qualifying here. Let's talk about the difficulty, though, of the traffic, because this is essentially just a 2-wide circuit, and there have been many cases with different series, Joe, with many different types of cars, including the Mazda MX-5s, where that has led to trouble when you do reach the traffic.
Yeah, essentially, if you're trying to go 3 wide, you're asking for a problem, for a bad result there. If you see drivers fighting in front of you, you kind of have to pick your way through carefully. The other thing about it, too, is not just the width of the track itself, but, well, they don't have many walls here. So we sort of joke about it a lot that you disappear into the ether, but it's just basically iRacing didn't extend things out into the woods. So if you go over these little embankments that they have at the side of the track, Justin, you could find yourself automatically towed back to the pits because you've gone past what is essentially the world boundaries.
Yeah, I've seen that happen before in different series here at this track, and it's not how you want to finish a race. Let's just say that. But with the way these MX-5s are going to run, say you're down the front straightaway. It is the longest part of the racetrack, a few thousand feet to say the very least. Your thoughts on where the best places are to pass, including that run up to turn 1 to the loop?
Turn 1 really is the best one, if we're honest. You've got a couple other places. You can see we're watching Lefebvre come down and across to finish another lap there. Because the main reason that first corner is your best opportunity, it's the only one with a long run into a heavy braking zone that isn't complicated by other problems. You have what we sometimes call yard sale corner, which is turn 5. That's got a really quick right-hand sweeper into it. Trying to figure out which way your opponent is going to go, or just simply trying to settle the car, is really difficult. But you can make passes into there. It's going to be tough. And then the other long run that you have is what we sometimes call the backstretch, but it's really the second to last straight before you get back to the front stretch, and coming on to Paddock Bend there. But that is another very fast corner. There's not much braking into there. So either you're going to have to get a good run onto that straight and use the draft to try and get beside someone, you're going to have to be really, really brave going into that corner and try to take the car hard in. The problem with that is that you can sometimes run into the other car, or you just wind up going wide off of it. And that leads you onto the front stretch, Justin, which if you have a bad exit off that corner, well, the other driver can just try to pass you right back into turn 1.
Or you end up into the hillside, as we talked about at the point before. But that leads, of course, you mentioned the run-up from turn 9 down to Paddock Bend. The carousel has also been that crazy run, as we talked about a little bit, with the F. Gardner turn, where drivers are going to try and send it in on the inside line, and it has led to a trouble spot in practice for this race just minutes before the start of qualifying. That was a place where drivers struggled. There was a multi-car incident involving drivers just before qualifying in that section of the track.
Yeah, especially on the first, I'd say 2 laps here with how many cars we have. Heading through that technical back section and in the carousel, you might find yourself still too wide, and it's very slow. It's just as narrow. There's really no wide parts around this circuit. So drivers who do find themselves too wide are going to lose a lot of time with that mostly being single file through there. The other problem that I worry about in there is when we hit the lap traffic. If you're a leader and you catch someone through there, you're going to have to hope that they're very well behaved and are paying attention to those blue flags for them to try and let you through so that they don't hold you up.
We're following along right now with Maxim Bunovich right now on his final lap of qualifying. His fastest time so far, his second time around, a 1:22.331. Did not get his third lap to count. He is 9/10 off the pole as he makes his way out through the carousel through turn 8 now. We'll see if he can bump up the time. Needs 9/1,000ths of a second to take the front spot for the field today. The run down that back straightaway up towards Paddock Bend. The Autosport Merch sponsored machine looking to get the best run he can. Drifts his way, might have clipped the sand a little bit through the inside of turn number 10 for Paddock Bend. We'll see if this lap does record a time. Across the stripe, a 1:22.281 to the top of the board he goes.
Wow. He used every inch of track, and you really have to do that. You talked about how short the laps are here. That's why we've got such close time. So you have to try and take those risks. It was his last lap. It was all or nothing. He really didn't lose anything by not pushing it there, or lose anything by pushing it, because essentially it was now or never. Watching Coimbra right now as he comes through that part we were talking about there, through the carousel. You really see how slow it is in this section. These cars tend to like to be a little bit loose at the rear as well, so you kind of have to watch out how you take it through there and make sure that you keep the car nice and smooth so you don't burn off the tires too much.
Yeah, and especially since we've talked about this throughout the season, throughout the broadcast, where this does include the new tire model that's been out for a few months, and that's been an adjustment period for a couple of the drivers. You're following along with some of these drivers as they make their way for the last moments of qualifying here. Remember, they're trying to set themselves up for the Sim Racing Studio starting grid. Want to enhance your sim racing experience but don't feel like spending hours doing it? Sim Racing Studio creates plug and race sim racing accessories and software to enhance your experience without any DIY effort. Go to simracingstudio.com for more information. Final seconds of qualifying coming up on the board. Joe, your quick final thoughts before we begin today's round.
Well, first of all, I was kind of hoping you would say sim racing and sim racing accessories there, but I was disappointed. Curious to see how Pignon and Bunovich handle this battle that they've got going up at the front, though. Let's go through the grid.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at how they'll start on that Sim Racing Studio starting grid for the final race of the season. Maxim Bunovich will bring them to the green flag today, followed by Marcello and Jan. It is Kenny Brady in P number 3 with James Sharp starting in 4th, with Torres rounding out the top 5. Clifford Evans will start in 6th position with the 122.515, with DJ Alessandrini in 7th. Brandon Hawkins in 8th, with Juan Francois Pinot in 9th. Rounding out the top 10, your season champion, Robert Hartley.
Yanni Turho starts in 11th with Ari Haro in 12th, and you got Arturo Cerati in 13th, and Christopher Taylor on P14. Nico Arvelomi starting the inside in 15th, and Yoni Hagner joins us from the Camel Series in P16. Juan Manuel Fernandez 17th, Andre Prieto in 18th, Christian Lindroth in 19th, and then the top 20 rounded out by Ishimaru.
It is Dylan Alt in the Proximity Racing Machine 21st, with Velasquez in 22nd, Anthony Burrows in 23rd, Vicente Salas with his lowest running qualifying starting position in 24th this season, Stephen Van Alstro in 25th, Kip Stevens in 26th, with Austin J. Smith, Stefan Gravel, Jonas Seeger, and Jackson Robinard rounding out your top 30.
Then you've got Brian Zabelski in 31st with Nico Kako in 32nd. Maxime de Tilly will be starting 33rd today. Fernando Cineretto in 34th, followed by Thomas Geisler in 35th. Outside of that row is Tejo Räisänen. Then you've got Nicholas Short in 37th, George Fike in 38th, and Renaud Lefebvre in 39th. Piotr Margula is your 40th driver.
Simon Paulding, 41st. Greg Savoy in 42nd. Luis Morga in 43rd. Drivers rev up their engines. The rest of the drivers all set to go. 50 set to take the grid. The green lights are out. We're off and racing from Summit Point for the last round of Season 4 for the Big C's MX-5 Challenge. A lot of tire spin and some drivers jumping the start to begin, but they make their way into the loop for the first lap of this race.
Got to be careful. You got to be patient into here. Everybody's going to be eager to try and make up positions, but you got to remember everyone's going to be checking up, and you can see we got a little bit of a spin at the very back, but otherwise that was a very good sign with that start.
We did have a couple drivers in trouble. Gessler in amongst those drivers at the back of the field. The rest of the field, however, off to a good start. Munovic leading them their way through the chute up to the F. Gardner turn for the start of the carousel, with already Pagnon looking to gain a ton of time. A bit of a later break that time compared to the race leader into the carousel.
So far, so good behind them in the yard sale corner. Everybody's been pretty patient there. But yeah, we've already just about finished this first lap already because they're coming onto the backstretch now up to Paddock Bend.
Right now, the whole top 30 in a clean situation to start today's round. There's an estimated 30 laps to go this time by for all the leaders as they complete their first way around this racetrack. Joe, at this point, it's very early on, but already the drivers trying to get into a good rhythm in terms of drafting position and track position for this race today.
Yeah, and the draft is going to be a little bit different from a lot of the circuits that these MX-5s visit. Yes, you get some of it down here into the loop, into turn 1, but it's not a drastic amount. You can see already the leaders know that. They've all just been getting single file very quickly. The first battle that we've got, honestly, I think is Arvelomi in 14th.
Yeah, battling at the back of the points run. Let's take a look at that at the moment. That's involving some teammates. That's some of the off-track racing machines. They're going a little bit off track on the corner exits, clipping the sand. That opens up the 12 machine for attack for Yoni Hagner. Hagner having a stellar campaign this season for Glacier Racing, looking to make it work on the outside line to the carousel.
Let's switch back to the inside. That was actually perfect positioning. He found the grip there into yard sale, and now there's really no way to defend here through the carousel. You can see he easily slips up into that spot.
Yeah, good positioning that time to get that preferred line for turn number 6 for the carousel portion of the track. Moves him up the grid for the time being into what is P number 15. But it's going to be important to be able to get yourself in this lead group because as we've seen in many rounds, Joe, throughout the season, if you're not part of the lead pack in the first few laps of the race, then it makes it difficult to contend for said win by the end of it. And we have a bit of contact, pardon me, there because Torres hit the back end of Sharp in the corner entry.
Yeah, thankfully it was just a light nudge. We had a driver off back there as well. I'm trying to figure out, looks like Pignot has found himself falling to 15th because he got out into the dirt, and he's actually still under attack. Look at how it's checking everybody up, too.
Now this is causing a bit of tightness through Wagon Bend. One driver misses the bend. It's Lindroth. Able to keep it straight, however, as Brado now tries to fall in the draft of the off-track racing machine. Getting a little bit feisty now into turns 5 and 6 once more.
Yeah, drivers are trying to be aggressive, probably for the reasons that you talked about before. They want to catch up with that front group. We're already getting a little bit of a split, to be honest. Once you get to Ariharo in 10th place, they're losing ground a little bit. Christopher Taylor's trying to keep up with that. Everybody behind them is watching them all slip away right now.
Yeah. Let's take a look at Taylor at the moment, on board with him. He's in the 12th position at the moment. And again, running the 122.5s. The drivers in front of him are running in the 122.3s. So going to be crucial to try and get a good rhythm together, to say the very least. Now up to 11th spot, pardon me, but needs to keep up with the rest of the top 10 to put himself into contention. A bit of a slower run that time, however, on the apex of the loop. Checked up the drivers behind them into a battle.
Yeah, and gosh, everybody's really having to be on their toes here as we watch Terho to the inside. I think he's going to get Arvalomi through Wagon Wheel. Now, even though he's done that, you can see how much that slowed them up being side by side, but there's nowhere to go for Cerati, who's back there in the Glacier car.
Yeah, might have to be a little bit patient, wait for the right moment. Still watching along. These are teammates again that are scrapping, and to his inside, mind you. He lets one of the teammates go. That is Cerati. He gets on through in the 12 machine, so Hagner drops back to 15th spot. Watches as the 3 Continental logoed machines line back up. Gonna get a bit dicey though, potentially up towards the front, because they have, for one, reached lap traffic. Sabalski is the next car they're about to reach, and second, the leader, I believe, has had a bit of a problem. Bunovic has gone and lost a ton of track position.
Well, he lost his internet connection, so he pulled over to try and let people through so they didn't hit anybody accidentally. He's all the way down to 26. Pignon basically has a huge gap back to Brady right now. So this is where Pignon's got to push.
And this is huge for Bunovic. This is a second round in a row, basically, with some types of troubles that we've seen. But it's going to get interesting with the traffic now. This is the first time we will already see lap traffic that is 46th place up in front of
Zabelski. Now, they do have a little while before they get up to the next car. This is Zabelski with some issues early on. So thankfully, they won't be hitting them one after another here. If you have one car, it's a little bit easier to pick your way through. If anything, this sets up a great opportunity for Pignon, because if he can get him in a spot where it's harder for guys like Brady and Sharp to try and overtake that lapped car, he can get himself that gap back that he had for a brief minute.
This also gives a bit of a draft here. Pignon looking to burp the throttle at 86 miles an hour on the apex, carrying a lot of speed. And now, moving to the right side of the track will be the traffic. So far, it's been pretty calm, surprisingly, at the front of the field. Everybody, I think, just playing the conserve the fuel type of game so far. There is still 32 minutes and 50 seconds up on the clock. No one's been forcing it quite yet, except for Torres right there, who sends the lap car off into the grass. My goodness, what a send.
And I don't know if he meant that or not, but that was Alessandrini that he went by. No, that was James Sharp, actually, that he got to the inside of. Sharp had to hesitate just a little bit because of Zabelski being to the inside, but he didn't really hesitate a whole lot. That looks more like, to me, like Torres just straight up missed his braking point.
Yeah, that looked really overcooking the corner. Let's take a look at this on board for Alessandrini, and you can see how tough and close that was. That could have been huge.
Oh, I think we had a big wreck, and this is with Fernandez, the number 91. Looks like Pignot. Oh, man, it's been a bad day for Jean-Francois.
Now let's take a look at this one, and this was the run into turn 5. In fact, on the entry of turn 5, and at first glance here, Joe, it looks like Fernandez might have tried to go to the bottom side. Instead, there was a car.
Yeah, he tried to cover off Lindroth. Lindroth was already braking to his inside. That is a great illustration of what I was just talking about. There's no penalty from the stewards. They already reviewed it. But yeah, you have to be careful about how you try to defend in that corner and how late you defend, because someone might be committed to try and outbrake you.
Yeah, now that puts him down to running, or a bit dicey though for P5. James Sharp just got a bit of contact, it looked like, with Clifford Evan, where they were near door to door in the loop. Now they're making way over the wagon bend, but should note again, Sharp does have damage on the right front headlight of the 5 machine, so that might affect him just a bit.
We also had to change for position between Brady and Torres again. I saw them swap up at the front through wagon wheel there. And this has actually brought Alessandrini ever closer to them as they start to lose touch with Pignon.
Yeah, we'll take a look on board from Alessandrini at the moment. He has won a few different races here in this series, including one this season in season number 4. And looking like he's got the better run at the moment, Brady. A bit slower this time, though, off the paddock bend. Could set up the draft. We'll see if Alessandrini attempts to make a move quite yet. Alessandrini does have a bit of aero damage on the right rear of his race car, should note. But looks like he's just going to be patient at the moment. Patience seems to be very key in this race so far, Joe.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that they're battling how they have been, if I'm honest, because after Pignon manages to get about a second ahead there, if I was the likes of Brady or Alessandrini, I wouldn't try to pass Torres. I would just get up and try and bump draft if possible. Give him a little shove.
Yeah, and they're not even getting to the back end of Torres, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, sometimes that can be tough. Like I said, the draft doesn't really give you a guaranteed slingshot here. So you do have to push hard. As speaking of pushing hard, Brady going in a little sloppy there into yard sale.
Yeah, looked like he overran the corner a little bit. Alessandrini looking to try and still fall on behind. They've lost about 3-4 car lengths this lap to the back end of Torres. And Brady looking like he's sliding the back tires a little bit. We've also seen the gap go down by 0.2 for Torres in that yellow car for second. Does that increase the urgency for Alessandrini if you're him now, knowing that Torres is already closing to the back end of the leader after making the pass on the car in front?
Oh, he's cut it down to 0.9 of a second now. This was as high as 1.3. So he certainly seems to have pace over Pignon. And once they catch traffic, that gives more opportunities to catch up. So really, it's not panic mode yet.
Tomas Torres in second position still at the moment. Keep an eye, though, on what's happening as we continue to see a lot of shuffling throughout the field. We see the calmness of second position. But it could get interesting, say, if you're 14th, because you've seen that for a split second. Vicente Salas, remember, started in 24th position. He is fighting aggressively hard to try and get himself into the points. He's in P number 16 at the moment in the 27. So keep an eye on that. We also have a few other drivers that are getting to rhythm. Vicente Salas has just gone off in the grass, off in turn number 5, and he's done for the race.
Sad to see someone give up so quickly. Yep, he's going to exit the session, so he's not happy with that mistake. There's the replay. Yeah, he just outbraked himself. He didn't hit anything. That's something where I want to see drivers fight it out, try and get back with whoever they were with once they have those mistakes. Really, you can't count out races that early. You never know what's going to happen up ahead of you.
Yeah, that was fighting for points, mind you, too, because Dylan Ault had also had trouble that lap, and it was getting very aggressive in that part of the field. But we're heading back up towards the front, where you see Torres has closed up the gap already to just 4 car lengths, just half a second the difference between first and second now.
Yeah, he's definitely reeled that in. You do get the draft at least decently far back, so he probably was helped along by that a little bit, but I do think that this was mostly raw pace that Torres had as we ride on board with him. Curious to watch and see how his hands are here through this section. Let's see if he's smooth.
Take a look at the sea here. Looks pretty smooth in the cockpit. Gains about another car length. Pretty good section that time to the carousel as he goes into the run to turn 9. Closed up another car length in that section alone, but not a good exit into the backstretch.
Yeah, that was a masterclass right there, what you saw. Just very little in the way of input. All of his inputs were very, very smooth. That's why Torres is as fast as he is. Now, Pignon, I talked about panic mode earlier. He can't enter panic mode either. Again, he's caught him, but we've talked about how tough it is to try and pass here. And even though Torres is gaining, you can't anticipate that he's going to immediately go at it. And when he does, don't just immediately go for the defense there. Try and figure out what exactly he's got underneath him. And especially if he was paying close attention, he may have seen that Torres made that wild dive before. That's another reason you really don't want to try and chop him off, because when a driver acts like that, I immediately kind of make a little note in my head and say, okay, he's a little bit wild, so it's better to maybe save my car a little bit than try and be aggressive on the defense with him.
And mind you, too, though, for Pignon, he is burning a bit of fuel by leading these laps. Let's go to the next pack, though, that's formed up. Behind the 4 drivers we see, there's a 5-car pack. James Sharp just made a move this lap on Clifford Eben. You have Brandon Hawken, you have Robert Hartley, and Arby Harlow rounding out the top 9 at the moment. That is, again, the group that is 5th to 9th working together, and they're right now recording times that are pretty close to the top 4 in terms of pace.
I wouldn't put it past them to maybe catch up to Kenny Brady back there, too, with James Sharp at the front of the group. They're not looking too bad right now. Eben, Harkin, Hartley, Haro, they're all staying pretty much in line, not seeing people dicing back in this second group. So they could rerun the top 2 or top 4 down, which looks like they might be splitting up into pairs of 2, actually.
Yeah, and Hartley, a bit of a dive, just made contact with the back end of Brandon Hawken. No damage on either of those cars. That could have got dicey for 7th and 8th positions. But the time difference right now between the lead group's times and the second group's times, it's about a couple tenths of a second faster for Ps 1 through 4 than 5 through 9 at the moment. So the pace needing to go up by just a couple tenths. The only driver that was faster than the leaders was James Sharp in that group.
Yeah, but that's actually good news for guys like Eben and Hawken, honestly. Because, again, I mentioned that draft. You just latch onto that car ahead as the lights now come on here with it getting so dark. You latch on, you hold on to them, you don't fight them, you just use them to help you out. Not everybody out on the track is immediately your enemy. You got to be strategic, especially in MX-5 races. These are almost always draft races, and with the pit stop in here, which Hawken is going to take right now, it's almost always a strategy race.
We also have the leader in. Pignon also into the pit lane in the 23 machine. So the Global SimRacing cars are starting to duck their way down. And this is to be expected here, Joe. We've seen this in the past half of the season, where drivers started to pit at the beginning of a pit window rather than the end of the pit window to get their fuel, as well as take left side tires on the stops.
I'm a bit surprised that Pignon was the one that made the call instead of Torres, because Torres was the one behind, and he would probably be able to take more advantage of it based on what we've seen on his raw pace. So at this point, all Torres has to do is stay out, because he's got no traffic immediately in front of him, and just rifle off as quick of lap as he can. And he could find himself easily ahead of Pignon after the stops are over.
Yeah, there's a strong potential there, absolutely. Again, he ran a 1:23.1 last time with the help of some draft. We'll see how he is in the cleaner air. Already pulled 2 car lengths on Alessandrini in through the carousel, the best part of the track for that 13 all day. And it's been a good season, mind you, for Torres. We've seen it with the point standings. He's been a contender just on every single round. He stays out along with the rest of the top 3 for the time being. 16 estimated laps to go, 22 minutes up on the board. Still a lot that can happen, though, as a lot of the drivers staying out this lap.
See Prado coming in. Also looks like Anthony Burrows is going to take a stop. You got to practice this pit entry, by the way. You can see there, well, when we went by earlier, right now we're on board with Brady. It dives quickly to the right, and I've seen drivers actually come back out on the racetrack because they didn't practice it enough and outbraked themselves into that corner.
And speaking of coming back on the racetrack, mind you, that pit exit is essentially right into the racing line once you come out of the pit boxes.
Well, the good news is with that pit exit is that even though it takes you back out into things, even though it's narrow, you have time to get your speed up and you have an idea to see who's kind of approaching you. Really, the tough part is if you're the car behind, if you can tell whether or not you can brake late enough to try and overtake someone if you start coming up on them as they exit the pits.
Still find all of the race leaders at the moment. At this point, we'll see when they elect to come down as Alessandrini went off into the grass that time by off of turn 9, able to save it as Torres dives it into the pit lane. So race leader Wami Damascus Torres is into the pit lane for his final service of Season 4.
Again, I'm surprised that Torres made this call. He could have easily stayed out a little bit longer. Let's see, as it looks like he took his spare car to get some of that damage repaired. Not seeing tires, though, in comparison.
That's an interesting call there, and mind you, the pit delta, 30 seconds. It's a 15-second pit stop, 3 seconds quicker than a lot of the different drivers in total terms of pit net time. Torres is out and away at least 10 car lengths ahead of the leaders with a buffer car between them and Simon Apalding. So a decent pit stop sequence for Torres. Gains of about 5 total car lengths once he got up to speed into 1.
Now, Pignon, I think he's going to be able to get back to the back of Torres here, because even though they're split by Erpelding here, he should be able to overtake them if he doesn't take too long and get within that slipstream and try to get back up to Torres. This is really where it's critical at this point, that he has to make this pass soon over Simon so that he can stay with him. If he doesn't do that, then Torres might have free reign essentially to scamper away, and there's the pass right there.
Clipping the grass though is Pignon. He clipped the grass on the left side of the track, and now stuck on the outside, making the inside now with a carousel. That lost him a bit of time. That was dicey. He clipped the grass with the left side tires on that engine.
Teammate to these two, James Sharp, has come into his pit stall and is getting service. Looks like Van Opstal and Bunovic also already pitting. Maxim, we haven't followed him since he had his problems. He's gained a few positions from the pit stops. He's up to 9th, but he's going to lose some of those right back now.
Yeah, I've seen him at the edge of the points window, but he's still getting the service as Torres and co drive on by. So off and away goes Bunovic for comparison's sake. He's off and away out of the pit boxes right into the mix of multiple different cars. And you see that pit exit right there, right behind Pinot. You're right in front of Sabalski and a few other drivers at the moment. So right now at the moment, the top 10 yet to pit as well as many different drivers. There is still about 3-4 minutes of flexibility for these drivers before they have to come in. And we've seen many times this season though, Joe, drivers have to be precise on how much fuel they put in the car, because that is how much time in turn you are in the pit boxes. It could be the difference between winning and losing, but we also seen drivers win and lose races by running out of fuel on the last lap.
You know, I almost feel like it's harder to try and win races here in this MX-5 when you're up against the best of the best, and it is at the higher level, because you talked about it. The margins are so small and the fuel has to be so precise. Here we see Hagner in as well. He's also going to take tires. You make just a half-second mistake, which sounds pretty small. That makes a big difference once you get back out on track.
A lot of the drivers off and away. Harl is amongst the drivers off and away. Hagner also off and away. That's the first drivers we've seen.
Sorry, Pignon has caught up to Torres. Sorry to interrupt, but he's closed the gap now.
Yes, indeed. The draft helping out a bit. The two teammates closing up that gap. That was 5 car lengths. So, 2 drivers working together better than one. They still have to go through some traffic in front of them. The current 5th and 6th place cars. But this could be a scrap that could decide things. They are currently 27 seconds behind Alessandrini and co.
That's Signoretto, who just had a bit of an off out of wagon wheel, so that's one less that they had to go and get by. Mariak, though, is up in front, and they're catching him at a rate of knots.
Yeah, the last time by, the difference in times, 124 for Mariak Torres in the 123 ones. We have seen Alan Sandrini, Brady, and Hartley just come down this time by. Keep an eye on those pit stops as well, because this could mean how many cars are inside the lead scrap. The drivers who have already pit, 15 to 16 second pit stops for the race leaders. Will they be able to come out in front of these drivers is the question. 18 to 19 second stops. All of them will come out behind the battle for the race lead. It's now side by side heading towards the loop. Pignon trying to send it. Torres lets him on, go on the right side of the track. Here comes Hawkin looking to fall through. Trying to keep up with a teammate, it's trouble. Pignon goes around, he spins in the corner. He's stopped on the racetrack as the rest of the drivers who came out of the pits pass him on by as he gets off the racing line. A big mistake for Pignon.
That cost him so much. We're going to watch the replay. But what was, bad for him was great for Hawkin. Hawkin saw what was going on. He's going to sneak through, and not only that, he's going to break the draft. Look at this. He gets to the inside, and as his teammate spins, he just ekes by.
I can't tell if he just over-rotated or if he downshifted it at a wrong point to cause him to get loose.
As we watch this replay, one thing to keep in mind is Clifford Eben was one of the few to go this extra lap. He saved fuel. Oh, but he just missed his pit stall as we come back live now. So that was time he could have saved, and he just gave away.
Big mistake. Let's take a look, though, at Hawkin because he is in the lead. You mentioned the gap. It is significant. About 2 seconds more so for Brandon Hawkin now. Big time luck as now you see Evan come out behind by a decent margin compared to the top two and right into the mix for third on back. So this is going to get interesting to see what happens with Hawkin and co. Well, they fight for the other spots. This is getting dicey for Sharp, Brady, and co.
Almost 3 wide there. Brady manages to pull away as they squabble amongst each other. Haro, great move there. Alessandrini as well. He's able to get Sharp. A lesser driver would have backed out, probably me, honestly, but that's what you got to do here with only 13 minutes left. Now is the time you need to see these aggressive moves.
Especially with only about 10 estimated laps to go. They're getting really dicey, mind you, all over the racetrack. We've seen Pignon, for example, just get a bunch of damage. He's in trouble at the moment because he just got sent off into the tires. He was in 13th position. And now he had major trouble because just prior to this, there was a major stack up into the corner where he got hit from behind, lost him the hood, and then got hit from behind again.
Yeah, let's back up this replay after this initial hit here. It was absolute chaos. A lot of drivers involved in it. Prado actually got bumped off. I'm seeing Mariak had the same issue as he was trying to get going. It was Arvelomi and Bunovic actually who capitalized the best on that. That promotes them up to 14th and 15th.
And you see that contact, that was a major miss of the braking zone that time in front. It caused about 7 or 8 different drivers to just about stack up. And Pignon, he is down on speed at this point. The drivers that came up behind didn't realize that sent him off into the tires, and now he is off the track.
Yeah, his day is pretty much over. Even if he does get back out, he's not going to gain much. Woo, there was a big problem as we come back. That was Alessandrini who had to really catch the car. He dipped the wheels into the gravel trap and really catch it.
Yeah, these cars currently lined up about 2 seconds behind Torres at the moment. And they are running even to quicker pace at the moment. If you're the drivers inside this line, what are you thinking here, Joe?
Well, at this point, especially if I'm farther back, like you see Yoni Hagner or Robert Hartley, I'm going to make my moves. I'm going to start going at this point because there's a lot of positions that you could try and pick up. Yeah, you might lose the draft a little bit, but I'd bank on those up at the front doing the same thing as Brady actually goes wide, and that's going to slow him down here, Justin.
And around goes Alessandrini to make the pass as they go around lap traffic in Lefebvre. And so, Brady no longer the lead car and trying to play defense on two different lines of cars. Sharp sends it very hard at Alessandrini. Off into the sand goes Sharp. He goes all the way to the edge of the tire barrier. Alessandrini stopped in the sand. Sharp trying to be aggressive, a bit too aggressive, trying to send it hard to get around that car and in that mix.
Yeah, honestly, what happened here, from what I could tell, is he was making brilliant moves. He was picking his way through. Oh, and we got a caution for some reason?
We just got a caution flag for the first time, I think, ever. After this. Wow.
So what happened there, what I was going to say is Sharp was he was weaving his way through. He had brilliant awareness up until he had to actually get on the binders. And then you could see he pressed them a little bit too late. He clipped the grass. And then from there, he was a bullet. And he couldn't do anything with it. So I don't know. I think this might have been a mistake from the stewards.
Their driver's still bump drafting. And right there, it is James Sharp who was given the black flag, mind you, in that situation. But this is going to change everything now, to say the very least, because
I don't know if they have enough time to finish out a caution flag. I'm hoping they just tell everybody to keep going and clear black flags.
We are in an interesting situation. Everyone is now going to slow down because at this point, there is the safety car on the track. Safety car is deployed. Brandon Hawken will lose that 2-second gap. Torres is now in second, and this changes everything. It could make it very interesting for this finish.
Okay, well, I'm used to talking about this more on the oval side, but I'm wondering if they're going to wave drivers through or what. Because it looks like they're letting Prem go ahead of Torres now. I'm pretty certain this was just a mistake from the stewards. This is not usually something that happens in this league.
Yeah, this is, again, uncharted territory. But again, this closes up all the gaps a bit here. Hawken, Torres, Brady, Harlow, and Eben are the top 5. Hartley in 6. Hagner, Satori, Alessandrini, and Burrows are in the top 10. This is going to open up a lot of discussion points. Prem does get the wave around the pace car, but this not only closes up the gap, but also makes it interesting in terms of the timing. They were an estimated 8 laps to go here, Joe. Now, there's only going to be maybe a few laps to decide who comes away with the final win of season number 4.
Now, here's what's really interesting on this, Justin, is anybody who cut it tight in their pit stops on fuel now no longer has to worry about that. But we do have, Ken Brady was just kind of faking a pit entry, so I guess he has been watching some oval racing there. But I was going to say nobody should need to come in at this point, and this definitely frees everybody up to race a little bit harder. If you've ever watched something like Formula E or something like that, what this does, before the current season rules, is it's a bit like it was in the first few seasons, where everybody now can turn up the wick and push it as hard as they dare.
I was about to ask what to do from here because the lights are out on top of the pace car, for one. So they have 1 lap now behind the safety car here. At this point, what do you do if you're Hawken? Because you said don't panic. The unexpected just hit.
Well, you still can't panic. Honestly, if you're a racing driver, you got to stay calm. Hawken, he's the one that hates this the most, I think, because he had managed to pull away from Torres. He had that nice gap. He had broken the draft. Here, honestly, if I was him, now's when you probably do have to play defensive, no matter what Torres is aggressive-wise. But it gets a little bit more complicated because, yes, he has to be aggressive on his defense, but he needs to kind of have to read on how he's going to play this one. Is he coming in hot? Do you need to give way just to save the car? But you really probably have to cover off that inside line anytime you think that number 13 has got to run on you.
Absolutely. And now it also gets to the question of what do you do if you're, say, someone like and Anthony Burrows. Let's go to that kind of example. He's plus 13 in the race. Was amongst the drivers who were in a second and third grouping. Puts them back in the conversation. Bunovich, back in the conversation. He's in 12th position. What do you do if you're those types of drivers that want to get to the front of the pack and get their best finishes? In some cases, for some of the drivers now who are now in reach of the leaders here, what do you do?
Well, it differs per driver, because Bunovich, well, I mean, he's got nothing to lose. He's got to go for it. He's got to try and push hard to try and make up positions. It's the last race of the season. You might as well. Burrows, I'd have to look and see where he is in the points, because like you said, he's gained a lot. He's in the points right now. He can't lose too many spots here because it only goes down to 15th. But at the same time, he's gained a lot, and there's really no reason for him to fight too terribly hard and try and throw it away. If anything, it's try to defend your position safely if I'm Burrows. But here we go.
All the drivers all set to go. About 5 minutes and 40 seconds on the clock. Hawken brings them down to the green flag. We're back to racing at Summit Point. And this is going to be interesting to see who can come away with the victory. Torres and Brady now back within reach for this fight up at the front. Already, Torres playing defense as Brady got a bit of a run heading towards the first run to the loop. Hartley sends it deep meanwhile for the top 5. Can't make it stick.
Clifford Eben is the one that held him off, and actually Hartley's going to suffer because Joni Hagner, not surprised here. That Finn is clever. He went straight around the outside of Robert, and that got him 6th place.
Taking a look at Evan at the moment, he's in the 5th place. All of them off into the sand. Hagner and Hartley both followed each other. Off to the sand trap off of Wagon Bend. Slows them up a little bit as DJ Alessandrini follows them on behind. Already, we're seeing multiple drivers trying to be very daring here with this opportunity. Bunovich trying to set it hard, gets to the inside line of the back end of the lead group.
Yeah, that gets him 11th place. He's already gained a couple there already in the first lap under green here. But man, Hawken is dealing with this beautifully. He hasn't completely dropped Torres from the draft, but he's pulled away enough that unless Torres has an incredible run off the final corner, I don't think he's going to be able to attack into turn 1.
Yeah, Hawken already up and away to half a second the advantage off the corner. As we continue to see these drivers with about 4 minutes to go up on the clock already, the rest of the field starting to line up. Kenny Brady playing defense to try and hold on to the podium. He'll try and set it hard on the inside. Looks to make it stick and does for the position, and now that leads to a scrap though. Hartley back to side by side with Hagner this time for 6th.
Yeah, Hagner tried the same move again. It didn't quite work out. He's going to push Eben. He will have the inside here if he can fend off on Hartley. And he just shoves Hartley off into the gravel.
Now Hartley getting really aggressive. He's already secured a title. He's looking to get a good finish today. He'll try and get the inside line part of the carousel. This time getting dicey still with Hagner. Wow.
Yeah, Hartley, I can't believe he managed to hold the outside around the outside of yard sale, because that gifted him 6th place essentially.
That's what you can do when you are a 3-time champion in 4 seasons in this series, such as he is for Excite Racing. And it's been an exciting race for him, battling to get himself a top 5 today. Estimated 3 laps to go this time by for the leaders. Keep an eye on the clock though. It has come very close in 4 of the past few rounds in terms of timing. Right now, the leader in Hawken deals with the dive for 2nd spot behind him as Brady makes contact with Torres. Evans off into the sand trap. Evan able to save it as they fight for 2nd spot.
They did come together. Brady almost got shoved off by Torres, who still has the inside. Now he gets back in the line. He's not going to like that. Look at him. He's right on top of the bumper.
Alessandrini done for the race, has reached the 20 incident point. He was inside the top 8 mix, but Brady wants to still get his 2nd spot back after the door-to-door contact. Can't get anything done on the run up through to the carousel this time by. But Torres is focused on one thing at this point, I think, Joe. Reach Hawken, because it's coming down to the final minutes.
And this is where Brady's got to keep cool. He can't let the red mist come down because you don't always know what exactly happened. It's easy to get frustrated thinking, oh, Torres almost tipped me off the track. He doesn't know the full situation. So at this point, he's got to make sure that his moves are still calculated and not done on pure emotion.
Absolutely agree with you. Has to be able to keep cool. A minute 20 to go on the clock. It takes a minute and 23 seconds to get around the racetrack. Going to be very tight on timing in terms of if we get the white or the checker this time around. Torres wants to send it hard. Cut off by the defensive Huckin. Brandon Huckin holds on to the lead. Coming out of the loop into turn 2.
Hagner also lost out to both Hartley and Bunovich. Bunovich is back in this thing in 6th place. He's the one that loved this caution the most.
Absolutely here, back in the contention. Bunovich off into the sand, sends Hagner off into the grass. Hagner saves it. They hold on to 6th and 7th positions. The question's going to be, can Huckin hold on to the lead as they come down to the final seconds, bumping and banging contact at the exit of the carousel.
Oh my goodness, it is ridiculous. What is
Harley's out of fuel.
Slow.
Harley's out of fuel.
How did he run out of fuel?
It looks like he might have run out of fuel. That caused the checkup as the top 3 have now broken away. Final seconds up on the board. Coming towards the expected checker potentially here. Huckin coming off the final corner. Will we get the checkered flag here? Yes, indeed. Movado SimRacing's Brandon Huckin will go back and forth and go to victory lane in the 99. Torres in 2nd. Brady off to the hills into 3rd.
Whoever does the calculations for Artie Haro, you need to be fired because he had laps under caution. He should have been easily within enough fuel. I have no idea how he managed that.
That was
got aggressive at the end, though.
That was a crazy finish to this season, to say the very least, especially with some of the battling. In that unexpected turn to this race, the Brandon Huckin, heck of a run. First, to avoid the incident that we've seen after the pit stops, but 2, the speed he showed after the restart. We'll take a quick break meanwhile. When we come back, we'll have the Turning Point presented by Turn Racing, minus 273 post-race show. You're watching the Big C's MX-5 Challenge on the Global SimRacing Channel. You're looking at the turning point presented by Turn Racing, as the caution flag definitely shook things up today and was the turning point in how the finishing order laid itself out. Because remember, Hawken was in the lead by 2 seconds before a safety car was triggered. There is an official apology given from the stewards from today, but that changed the whole entire complexion of the finish of this race, Joe.
Really did. We were pretty quick to say that is the turning point, simply because, I mean, without it, we probably would have seen mostly a cruise to the finish unless we got some sort of traffic in the way of the leaders. I'd say that Hawken had it pretty well wrapped up.
Yeah, he had broken the toe from the second and third place cars. It was going to be interesting to see if the toe happened. Instead, how to play major defense towards the checkered flag of this one. That was the turning point presented by Turn Racing. Merge the gap between SimSport and Motorsport with Turn Racing. Turn carries a wide variety of steering wheels to suit any and all of your needs. From advanced sim racing wheels to practical street wheels, they'll surely have something for you. Check them out at turnracing.com. With that, that'll start our coverage of the minus 273 post-race show in what was an eventful finish to this season. Season 4, seen many different winners. Brandon Hawken, now amongst them. Coming from 8th to 1st, coming away for the victory with 0.3 of a second the gap between him and Torres. Brady in 3rd with Hartley, Bunovich, Burrows, and Hagner the top 7. Satori comes home in 8th with Eben in 9th, and take a look who's in the top 10. It's Ishimaro with one of his best runs of the season. He rounds out the top 10, Joe.
Juan Manuel Fernandez finishes 11th. Drizix managed to climb without a qualifying lap from 47th to 12th, so that's a good job to him. Tiejo Räisänen finishes 13th with Steven Van Obstal also coming up to 14th. Fernando Signoretto did qualify 34th, and he wound up 15th. That is a great final point for him. Jean-Francois Pignot, 16th. Daniel Munoz in 17th, and Simon Erpelding in 18th. And you got Greg Savoy in 19th, and Andre Preto with his late problems wound up in 20th.
Ariak in 21st, Will Cumbra finishing 22nd, George Fike in 23rd, Prem in 24th position. The last cars in the lead lap were Margola along with Geisler in 26th. Harold finished 27th, one lap down after running out of fuel. Harvey Lomi also finished one lap down in 28th. Charho at 29th, and Kip Stevens rounds out the top 30.
And from there on down, it is mostly drivers who are a lap down or more. So these are many who actually DNF'd, unfortunately, in the end. I believe you've caught up with Brandon Hawken, though.
Yes, indeed. As you look at the rest of the results, joining us for the minus 273 post-race show is your race winner, Brandon Hawken. Interesting way to finish off the season, to say the very least. But you came home with the victory. Brandon, how do you feel coming home with the W here at Summit?
Wait, Justin, man, that was a crazy way to cap off the season, wasn't it? Yeah, as soon as the yellow came out, I was like, oh no, this is pretty much on course for what's been going on this whole season for me. But man, I was lucky to hold on, and yeah, it definitely made the very end a lot more exciting for me, because I was just hoping to hold the gap towards the end, and then the yellow came out, and that's when it got really scary. So yeah, I'm just happy that we didn't lose it, and yeah, that was a ton of fun for sure.
I was going to ask here as well. You mentioned it a little bit there, trying to hold on. How difficult was it to do so? Because there was, in a couple cases, Torres and Brady had tried to send it in to try and get towards your inside, but just couldn't get enough speed to get to the inside without risking contact.
Yeah, it was really close a couple of times. I know, yeah, a couple of them sent it in pretty hard, but yeah, luckily we didn't make any contact. I think it was I'm not sure it was the last lap or the second to last lap. It got really close, but I just held the inside, so yeah, just to defend it, and yeah, we were able to hold on. Luckily, Summit Point doesn't have too many passing zones, so yeah, the first corner you kind of just have to bomb it sometimes, and yeah, it was really close, but I'm really happy for how the season ended.
You're the 6th winner this season in the 9 rounds in season number 4. How would you describe your overall campaign for you and your
It was really tough. Got caught in a lot of accidents early on, but luckily we were able to turn it around the last few weeks and get a little bit luckier. So, and same with my teammates too. They were Marcello and James. We they had some issues like bad luck as well, and but yeah, we did manage to get a few races in though that went pretty well. So hopefully next season we can have a little bit better luck. But yeah, I'm fine with I'm fine with the last race.
anyone you want to thank before we let you get going?
Well, I'd like to thank all my teammates at Movano Racing, Clifford for hosting everything, you guys for the broadcast, all the series sponsors. Congrats to Robert on the championship, and had a lot of fun this season. And yeah, thanks to everybody who I raced with, and yeah,
Congratulations on the win today, Brandon. Stellar run.
thanks, Justin.
That was Brandon Hawken coming home with the victory today. His first of the season among 6 different winners in 9 rounds. And before we say goodbye and get our final thoughts, I'd like to remind you this is the minus 273 post-race show. Whether it's on the real track or the virtual track, minus 273 has one goal in mind: to produce the best racing gloves to get the job done. With unmatched comfort, durability, and style, the gloves will leave your old ones in the dust. Find out how they can help you by visiting minus273.biz. Now, before we say goodbye here for this campaign, Joe, your thoughts, because man, it was a thriller to finish things off for Season 4. It was a season with tons and thrills. And Robert Hartley coming away with his 3rd championship in 4 seasons.
And something we didn't really focus on, though, is that Robert Hartley didn't finish on the best notes. He wasn't even on the podium. He was 4th. So maybe that gives a little bit of hope to the other drivers like Hawken and Torres, that maybe they can get something over him next season because they carry the momentum. But this was a great way to end things out, even if it was a little unorthodox.
Indeed, but in the overall complexion of the season, it was a fabulous one, to say the very least. We'd like to thank GTR Simulator, Sim Racing Studio, SHH Shifter, Turn Racing, and minus 273 for sponsoring today's racing action and the full season, as well as the series title sponsor, Big C's. We'd also like to thank our series organizer, Clifford Evan, for organizing what was an eventful campaign for season number 4. Congratulations once again to your season champion, Robert Hartley, who comes home with the GTA F Simulator from GTR Simulator. It will be his 2nd one, essentially. That'll be set up in the shop. Gonna be filled with simulators, to say the very least, after another successful campaign. We'd also like to thank the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed up on your screen, with additional thanks to Jude Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more for great work. Thanks to the team today in Joe and Sean. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale at Global SimRacing Channel, or GSRC rather, .storenvy.com. Or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, all in one word, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to the YouTube page and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. It was an eventful way to end off the season, but it's time to say goodbye. We have many upcoming races for other series listed on your screen. Be sure to check those out. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.